All right, back to the debt ceiling negotiations now, and as that deadline looms, several congressional leaders are urging the president to invoke the 14th Amendment to avoid a default.
Certain lawmakers believe it will allow President Biden to circumvent the House and raise the debt ceiling, but it would no doubt trigger legal challenges. Connecticut Congressman John Larson is one of the Democrats who's calling for it. He joins us live to explain his point of view. Congressman, thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you, Jen.
All right, so explain what the 14th Amendment is and why you think it's necessary.
Well, the 14th Amendment was instituted after the Civil War, and primarily so that President Lincoln would have the power with those who were part of the Confederate states that were coming back into the Union couldn't decide to do, frankly, what 25 members of the Republican Party are trying to do down here, which was to hold up or block government or have us default on the full faith and credit of the United States government. And so that's why the 14th Amendment included in it a provision that would prevent that from happening. Now, it's never been used, but it was there for that specific reason. And that's why, we all hope, we want to see this negotiated out. But we've seen time and again, just within the last 2 weeks, when we had a deal and then it was taken back and there was no deal. So I know President Biden well enough to know that he is not going to allow the United States to default on its full faith and credit, and the catastrophic economic occurrence that would take, because people are trying to use Medicare and Social Security and the very people we represent as bargaining chips. These are people. This is about people's lives and their livelihood. And they're not bargaining chips in a political game over ideological differences. For God's sake, the debt ceiling was raised 3 times under Donald Trump's administration. And now at their first opportunity, in order to use this as a political chip, that's not what Mitch McConnell is saying. That's not what Chuck Schumer is saying in the Senate. Everybody's saying we have to pay these debts because we know it's what the United States has incurred, and we want to make sure we keep our global economic standing with the rest of the world, instead of diminishing it.
So, Congressman, let me ask you this, because
Sure.
The Republicans are holding fast to their idea of spending cuts that the Democrats find unacceptable. There are lots of Americans who think reducing spending might be a good idea. It's been the talk in Washington for literally decades to try to rein in spending. Can Congress raise the debt ceiling and still get serious about reining in spending somewhat?
Yes, but it shouldn't be done. You shouldn't be holding the American economy and American people hostage. And when you talk about cuts, when you're saying that cuts to throwing 200, in the state of Connecticut alone, throwing 226,000 people off of Medicaid, 80,000 of our students not getting Pell Grants, that's not a debate and discussion in the full light of day. That's what MAGA Republicans think is a good idea with regard to spending. You got to have these discussions in a democracy, in the open, and debated in public, not something that is dreamt up ideologically that sounds good in a 30-second soundbite. Democracy is tough, but you got to make sure that you're putting out what's actually going to happen to people if your ideas were to come to reality. And this is a tale, I feel sorry somewhat for McCarthy, because he struck a deal a couple of times, came out and said they had a deal, but then went back only to find out that it's the tale of the MAGA Republicans that are in his caucus that are saying we're not going to abide by that. I don't think they're going to abide by anything. And if they won't, then President Biden should evoke the 14th Amendment and make sure that the United States does not default on its debt.
Congressman Larson, always good to hear from you. We will have our eyes on Washington to see what happens.
Always good to hear from you as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.